What's up, everybody? Great morning, great morning, great morning. It is Thursday morning, an amazing day. I've been up since probably about 3 o'clock this morning, um, getting some work done, making some things happen. And then I decided I was hungry. So I said, let me fix me up a little something this morning. You guys come on in, let me know where you're coming in from. Let me know where you're coming in from. Who's here? Yeah, I done got a little spoiled. I refuse to just eat off of paper plates. I'm like, I don't want to eat off paper plates. That's not what I want. Who's here, you guys? Hey, I see Australia's in the house. Welcome, welcome. So, you guys, I wanted to come on this morning and just kind of talk to you guys about doing it while you can. You know, a lot of times in our lives, we talk about these things that, we want to do, we plan to do. We create all these plans and we have these things that, we're going to do, and they just never seem to happen. They can never seem to happen for a number of reasons, but one of which is we may not ever get around to it. There are other things that are going on in our life, and so we're focused on that, and all of these different things. But listen, can I tell you guys something? Let me share this with you guys. Um, when you are living your life and you have the opportunity to do certain things, it's imperative that you do them because you don't know, right? Okay, you don't know if you'll ever get that opportunity again. You don't know if you'll ever get that opportunity again. And so, because you don't know if you'll ever get that opportunity again, you want to make sure that you maximize every opportunity that you have. Opportunities are just that, they're opportunities. You can't assume that, you know, um, you're going to be able to do it in the future or it's going to work in the future. But what you can do is operate off of what you have right now in this moment. I don't necessarily have to always know the answer. I don't have to know how it's going to turn out, but I have an obligation when God puts something in my spirit um, to do it to the best of my ability, to do it in a way that God gets glory, to do it in a way that it empowers other people to live their best life, to do what it is that they've been called to do, and to maximize that for the good of the kingdom. Yes, Australia. And unfortunately, we don't always do that. Unfortunately, sometimes we get so distracted with just the day to day of life or overwhelmed by the problems of life that we fail to do the things that God really desires for us to do. And in doing that, we find ourselves in a place. We find ourselves in a place where our effectiveness is diminished. Good morning, friend. So I made a decision this year that 2020 was going to be the year that I just did everything that I've been called to do. Regardless of what anybody says, people will say, no, you can't do this and that, and you can't do this, and you can't combine that, and you can't. I took the can'ts out, not only of my vocabulary, but out of my life, off of my life. Because who are they to tell me what I can and can't do, what will and won't work? Just because it didn't work for you doesn't mean it won't work for me. I've discovered that I am just multi-talented. I'm great at a lot of stuff, right? And that's not to brag or anything. It's definitely the gifts of God, but everybody doesn't have that. And so when you have that, baby, you better walk in that while you can. What happens if something that you are really good at, that you are destined to impact people's lives with, what happens if you no longer have the capacity to do that? What happens if something should happen to you, God forbid, concerning your health that interferes with your ability to do that? Then what, right? You've wasted time because someone told you what you couldn't do. You've wasted time because somebody said that that's not possible. You've wasted time because somebody said that's not how it's done. I came to tell you that God will give you divine strategies that other people will be baffled by and confused by. It's not for them, but it is for you. And so you have to do what it is that God has called you to do, the way He's called you to do it, when He's called you to do it. Good morning, Sakita. How are you, gorgeous? So that's my motto. 2020 is the year where I do everything that God has called me to do. Whatever doors He opens that I'm to walk through, I'm walking through them. However, I'm to show up, I'm showing up unapologetically. And I don't care. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what anybody says. They can't define me. They can't. Mm. Listen, Misty, you're supposed to act. You're supposed to act. And just because it hasn't done everything that you want it to do yet, you wait until you're in the movie. You're in that big movie and you got a substantial role and you're on the big screen and your name is rolling in the credits. Those very same people will be the ones that are like, I knew you were going to do it, girl. I always knew you had it in you. They didn't know. They didn't believe, but it's not for them to believe. It's not their dream. It's not their mission and it's not their destiny. And so how can they? They can't believe for their own self, let alone for somebody else. So you can't even be surprised by it. You can't even get mad at them. You just got to do what you got to do and know that you are hearing for God for yourself. Hey, what's up, girl? How you doing, boo? Listen, Keita said when someone says I can't do something that motivates me to work harder, so them and myself I can't. I know I'm the same way. Good morning, Denise. Thank you, Erica. I'm telling you, y'all listen. Let me tell y'all something. It's sad to say, but the world is full of haters. And I'm not just saying that just to have something to say or just because I want to say I've got haters. I could care less about those folks. Really, like at the end of the day, they have absolutely no real substantive impact on my life. And so when you stop allowing them to have any kind of control, right? Any kind of control over your life, then you empower yourself to do whatever it is that you want to do. And this is the thing. I get it, Sakita. Like, when somebody tells me that I can't do something or whatever, like, I'm the same way. But then I thought about it. Well, that gives them a lot of power because what if they say I can't do it? What if they say I can do it? Does that mean I don't do it? I don't know. Like, I think that we've got to get beyond them and their opinions having any role in our life. You know, I think that that's imperative, but it requires a different level of maturity, a different level of operation. It requires something a little bit different. And so when we operate in that, y'all, it's gotten hot down here. I was cold yesterday, so I had to turn the air down because this air is no joke. Um, oh, yeah. So when we give them any kind of power, any kind of control in our life, like they've got too much. They shouldn't have it. And so today, I want you as you're going throughout your day to remember that the calling that God has on your life is yours. It's not for anybody else to understand, to get, to be okay with. Like they're absolutely irrelevant in the big scheme of things. And so you have to make sure that you are simply doing that which God has called you to do, regardless of what anybody else does, regardless of what anybody else says, regardless of what anybody else thinks. Like it's irrelevant. And that means that you got to believe. You got to believe for yourself. You got to believe big. You got to believe when it doesn't look like it. You just have to believe. And believing isn't always easy. Why, Dr. V? Why isn't believing always easy? What believing isn't always easy because what you see often doesn't match what you believe. What you see often doesn't match what you believe. But just because it doesn't match doesn't mean that that is your true reality. See, I believe that there are multiple realities that exist in the world, right? There's the reality that you see in the natural, and there's the reality that is what God has said, right? Regardless of what you see, regardless of how you feel, it is what is. And you have to decide. You have to decide which reality is going to rule in your life. Some people choose to allow the reality that they see to rule in their life when the reality is that that's the probably the least um, poignant reality. Why do I say that? I say that because if you've ever watched the movies, The Matrix, they talk about the red pill and the blue pill, right? One pill allows you to see what's going on right now, what appears to be going on, right? It seems like it's the reality. It seems like it's the real world, but there's a real world that exists behind it, underneath it. And you can't see that unless you take the blue pill, unless you're able to go beyond that. And that's the thing. A lot of us, there is the reality of who God says we are, and we can't get to it because we're so busy being caught up in what we see right now in the natural. And I need you to know this ain't real. This ain't real. You know what's real? What's real is what God has said about you. What's real is what God has ordained for you. That's what's real. Everything else, like, this is just a part of your journey. It's not your final destination, and it is not the ultimate reality. So you got to choose what you're going to believe is real. I choose to believe the word of the Lord. I choose to believe what he says. I choose to believe um, what he has called me to do, what he's ordained me to do. That's what I choose to believe. Listen, let me tell you something. 2 months ago, if you said Dr. V was going to be up at this time in the morning cooking breakfast, I definitely would have said that ain't real. Definitely would have. Is it because I couldn't cook? No, it was never that. It was because I was just in a situation and in a place where I didn't want to cook. I didn't feel like cooking. Cooking wasn't appealing to me, right? But when you change situations, when you change circumstances, then you can produce and yield a different kind of result. Today, like, I've cooked, I think, almost every day this week. Maybe one day I didn't cook. But I've cooked almost every day this week. Not because somebody made me, not for a man. I cooked because I was hungry. I cooked because I wanted to feed my kids. I cooked because I enjoy my kitchen. I cooked because I'm in a different place, right? So, all of that to say, mm, my God, all of that to say that you don't have to allow the reality of yesterday to be the reality of today. You don't have to allow what people believe or what people have said concerning you to be the final word or the final say. Because at the end of the day, there's only one final say, and God has it. And the reality is that we get to participate in whether or not that final say comes to pass. God has ordained it, he's established it to be reality, but it's up to us to live that out. It's up to us to manifest it in the earth. It's up to us. Now, some of us don't want to accept that responsibility. We want that to be the responsibility of someone else. And so we can say, well, I didn't do it because they. Well, the reality is they don't control or dictate anything when it comes to your life or your destiny. They only control what you allow. So, in other words, if you don't allow it, it won't be so. So, stop allowing stuff you don't want. Because what you're really doing is you're lying to yourself. You're saying you don't want it, but then you're doing things that produce it. I don't know. That's baffling to me. You're saying you don't want it, but you're doing things to produce it. Stop doing things to produce the chaos that you say you don't want in your life. Stop doing things that prevent you from truly being who God has called you to be. Stop just allowing what the world and what others think and say to be the final say as it relates to your life. I'm a firm believer that there are things that we can do because God has already declared it to be so. And so when we do that, then what we do is we produce the thing that God wants produced. And what is that? What does God want produced in your life? What does God want produced through you? What is that? You got to make that decision. You got to seek God for that. And once he speaks it, once he declares it to be so, you got to walk that thing out. That's the thing that you got to do. If anything is hard, It's the walking out of what God has called us to do. Because in that part, in that piece, we often find ourselves questioning and doubting our ability. But when you understand, it's not about your ability. Your ability is absolutely irrelevant. It's about God's. And He is able to do exceedingly and abundantly above all that you could think or ask. Now that's an amazing thing. I know He's able to do exceedingly and abundantly if I'm in the kitchen cooking. Come on, somebody. Oh my God, this coffee is so good. So today, stop allowing what other people say has to be your reality to be your reality. Live the life you want to live. Live a life of prosperity, a life of success, a life of peace, a life of joy, a life of love. And know that you deserve it. There's a song by J.J. Harrison that says, "You deserve it." And I love that song. And I know it's talking about God. Um, but listen, can I tell y'all something? If we could just really get how much our Father wants for us, then we would understand that we deserve it. We deserve everything that God has ordained for us. We deserve it. I love you guys. Oh, thank you, Sakita. You're such a sweetheart. Hey, Festus, how are you, boo? Listen, I love you guys to life and life more abundant. You guys be absolutely amazingly and incredibly blessed. And remember this, beloved, I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. Mwah. Be blessed.